Howdy folks, and welcome to the shop. It's kind of chilly out there today. We're in the middle of winter here on Chesapeake Bay, and I'm gonna put some more wood in the fire first. It ain't too bad in here. I keep the fire going, got the heat on. So, welcome back to the shop series. Today we're going to talk about another iconic lure. Last time you were here, we were talking about, we talked about music a little bit, but the time before that, we talked about an iconic reel, which is a Mitchell 300. Well, I thought this would be a good time to talk about one of the most iconic spinners of all times that kind of fits right with that Mitchell 300, and that is the Mepps spinner. Now, you probably know about a Mepps spinner. If you're a fisherman, you know about a Mepps spinner because they've been around for a long time, and they might be the most successful fishing lure ever invented. It wouldn't surprise me if there's been more fish caught on a Mepps spinner than any other kind of lure ever because they're just that successful. And I've got my success stories with them, and I bet you do too. And I bet you got a favorite kind that you like to use, and I bet you catch fish with it. That's just the way it goes. So let's talk a little bit. I was sitting around here last night. I had a book club meeting with some of my friends, and my friend Kate and I got to talking about Mepps spinners, and I showed her some of the stuff I've got, and we talked about them for a while, and that kind of got me thinking that it'd be a good thing to talk about in my shop talks. This is a series where we just talk about stuff that we have out here in the shop that I've collected over the years, and I am no expert by any means. I just know a little bit about some of the stuff that I like because I collect stuff that's meant stuff to me over the years in my 60 plus years of fishing, and that's kind of what I hold on to. So sometimes we don't just talk about fishing, we talk about music, and we talk about arrowhead hunting and whatever comes up, but today we're talking about Mepps spinners. So it goes back to 1938. There's a fella over in France. Remember France, where the Mitchell reels came from. So this fella, his name was Andre Muehlnart. Andre Muehlnart invented the Mepps spinner. Now, he called it Mepps because that's an acronym. It's not his name or nothing like that. It's just an acronym, and I wish I could tell you what it is, but I don't speak French. So I'm not going to try and mess it up, but just take my word for it. It stands for something. And so I want to show you some of the early ones, and they were sold over in France, and this is some that I've collected. I hope you can see those there. These are number ones, and these are number twos. They just go up in size 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the bigger the number, the higher the number, the bigger the lure. But these particular ones, if you can see those boxes there, were sold at AFI stations. Now, that's the PX at military bases over in Germany. So American GIs would pick these up and bring them home and use them. And they caught fish. And that's exactly what happened to a fella out in Wisconsin, and his name was Todd Sheldon. And so Todd Sheldon, one of his buddies, was in World War II, and he picked up some Mepps spinners over there and brought them back, and he gave him one. And well, he was out fishing one day in Wisconsin, Mr. Sheldon was, and he was on the Wolf River. And I've never fished the Wolf River, but I always wanted to. But he was fishing the Wolf River, and danged if he couldn't catch a thing. And I'm sitting over here by the fire. It's still a little chilly out here. But he couldn't catch nothing. But then he remembered that he had that Mepps spinner in his tackle box that his buddy had given him that he brought back from World War II, and he tied it on, he throwed it out there, and danged if he didn't catch the biggest stringer of trout he ever caught out of the Wolf River. So he had him a shop in town, so he started selling them, and he found him a woman over in France that would sell them to him, that would mail them to him, and in exchange he'd send her some nylon stockings. And well, after a while he got to selling so many lures that she couldn't keep up in stockings, and she wasn't wearing out her stockings as fast as he was selling lures, so he had to go right to the company and buy them. And he did, and after they started selling so good that he just closed his store and started importing and selling Mepps spinners all over the country and advertising them in the magazines. And I've got some old magazines here. It's got some pretty good, I should have got one out and showed it to you. It's got some pretty good ads for them. But they caught fish. So eventually the Sheldons, Mr. Sheldon passed it on down to his son and his grandsons, and they still run the company to this day. It's an American company. But they still make the parts for them lures over in France, because the factory that they started making them in over there, that original factory is still in business, and they machine each one of the components of those lures. So if you look, these lures, here's one that I've cut a hook off of, because I like to use single hooks when I'm pickerel fishing, and let me hold on to it there, and you can see that the precision that goes into those are machined lures. Now like if you're a fly fisherman, that machined fly reels cost a lot more money than just cast reels, because with cast reels you get a lot of variations and a lot of differentiation. When you machine it, it's precise. It's more precise, and that's what makes those spinners so good, is because they are made with precision. And so you take one out, and it casts just the same as the one you had before, and the next one you take out, it worked just the same. And they all work, really good. I said they're one of the most successful fishing lures ever, and I believe they are. And I've caught my share on them too. I remember one time I was up not too far from Wisconsin. I was in Minnesota, so a whole lot closer than we are here. But I bet the weather's about the same out there today. I was in Minnesota, and I drove up to a place called Little Falls. Now, I wanted to go to Little Falls because there was an antique lure museum there, and I wanted to see it. And it was good. I encourage you to go to it. I wish I could remember the name of it. But also, there's a dam right below Little Falls called Blanchard Dam. On the Mississippi River. Now, Mississippi River up there ain't like it is down in New Orleans. It's little. It's it's smaller than a lot of creeks, but it's a good sized dam. I went there for two reasons. One, to go fishing, and two is because it's a good place to rock collect. And I collect rocks too. I like to get out and find rocks and make that people can make jewelry out of and stuff. And I used to dabble around in doing that a little bit too. But they have something up there called cross rocks, or fairy stones, which is maybe sterilite. I can't remember what the actual chemical name for the stone is, but or geological name, I should say. But it's a stone that looks like a cross, and it looks like a Maltese cross. It just naturally forms there, and you can find them there. But you can also catch some big smallmouth, and I got to cast in there, and I think I was throwing a crankbait to start out with, thinking I'd catch a smallmouth off the bottom, but there's so many zebra mussels that as soon as your lure got close to the bottom, oh my goodness, he'd cut it off just immediately. If you ever hooked a fish, and I did hook a few, they'd pull you right down. And so I did kind of the same thing Mr. Sheldon did. I got digging around my box, and I found a Mepps spinner, and I found out that was one of the few lures that I could keep off the bottom and keep it at a relatively moderate retrieve, and that it would come through there. And my goodness, did I catch the pike and smallmouth. And I caught pike so big I couldn't get them in because the water was pretty strong. There's a lot of current there. And I vowed that I'm going to take me an ambassador bait caster back up there one of these days, and I'm going to catch some of them big pike, and I bet there's some big muskie in there too, but I hadn't done it yet. But that's what I want to do. But anyway, those Mepps spinners, and they'll catch fish for you today. Now, I wrote about them in my book. If you don't have Chesapeake panfish, I hope you'll pick it up. There's my vintage Tochterman's ruler there. But as you see there, I've got a section where I talk about there's original blueprint for the Mepps spinner there, and I talk about how to fish them. And I'm gonna give you one tip today, and then I'm gonna quit on how to fish them. When you throw a Mepps spinner out there, you can feel the vibration. You know, I talked about amplitudes and frequency in the section that I did about every cast is a song. And you can feel the frequency of that lure as it vibrates through the water as that blade turns around. And so as it turns, you can feel the resistance. Now, if you ever stop feeling that resistance, there's one or two things happen. Either you picked up some junk or a fish has hit it. Either way, jerk it. And because you need to either get that spinner going again, or you need to set the hook in a fish. And so I told you one tip. I'm going to give you another tip too. So one of the things that fishermen will do, and I wish they didn't, but one of the things they'll do is they'll put a swivel on there. Now, some people are going to argue with me about this, but I'm going to tell you, you don't need a swivel on a Mepps spinner. You might need a swivel on some kind of spinners. There's all kinds of imitations out there. And you might need a swivel on those. But a Mepps spinner, what happens is that thing spins, that blade spins, and the body of the lure never moves. It stays still. So it ain't going to twist your line up. Now, if there's something wrong with it, it'll twist your line up. But otherwise, don't put a swivel on there. You don't need it. It's just something else that's going to fail. And I'm not a fan of any kind of additional terminal tackle. And you've heard me say that before, and I'll say it again. But you don't need a spinner on a Mepps. So that's my two tips there. Here's a more modern one. By more modern, I mean that's probably 1970s. And you notice it's got a squirrel tail on the end of it. They still buy squirrel tails up there in Antigo, Wisconsin is the name of the town where the Mepps factory is, and still there to this day. They make the stuff over in France, bring it over there. Americans put it together. They got little old ladies all over town there that tie squirrel tails on for them. Buy them. They're good lures, and they still catch fish. Thank you for tuning in to the Shop Series. I appreciate you watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you will, and I appreciate your likes. And if you got any questions, let me know, and I'll do another series on it. So that's the story of Mepps spinners. I'm going to put another log on the fire and try to stay warm. Y'all have a good day.